Ladies and gentlemen, some pretty phenomenal revelations in the Durham probe trial of Danchenko, the Steele source. He was paid $200,000, over $200,000, simply to give information that was false. They offered $1,000,000 to verify the information. They never spent that $1,000,000 of taxpayer money. Okay? So they never spent the $1,000,000 of taxpayer money because they offered $1,000,000 to verify the information. The information was false. They then paid $200,000 and offered what amounted to an immunity deal as long as he told the truth. He did not tell the truth. Now, one count was thrown out of the 5. But the interesting thing, or the positive thing in terms of the Durham probe special counsel, is that the other 4 counts still stand. He has to defend, the Steele source has to defend against the other 4 counts. Hit subscribe to this channel. If you want to support this live stream, your super chat is greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, so to my super chat, I cannot do this without you. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like some people. Source, Steele Dossier source behind the debunked Dossier was paid more than $200,000. This is the Daily Mail. $200,000. Okay? And you have to ask yourself, why was he paid? And we're back. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. So, can you hear me now? Are you back? All right. The Durham probe trial found out that $200,000 was paid to a man who lied about working with a public relations executive linked to both Clintons. So let's start off with the Daily Mail. And by the way, this had nothing to do with national security. Even the New York Times and others are like, oh, well, this agent on the witness stand said it's part of national security. It had nothing to do with national security. This has nothing to do with national security. Casey, hello. DB, hello. Eric, DeFreak, everybody here. Lisa, hello. Kristen, hello. This has absolutely nothing to do with national security. We'll get to that in a second. Danchenko's on trial on charges of lying to the Bureau. He was the primary source for Christopher Steele's dossier on Trump. Bureau agent testified Bureau paid him $200,000 over 3.5 years. I mean, it is lucrative to go up to try to set up and frame Trump. Could you imagine, just for a second, could you imagine if a source against Clinton or mashed potato brains Joe or Hunter or President Obama, could you imagine if a Bureau source was paid $200,000? Could you imagine that for a second? If a source was paid $200,000 to give false information or a compilation of lies about President Obama or Clinton or mashed potato brains Joe, what do you think the New York Times or the Washington Post would say? What do you think morally superior, wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrats would say? Think about that for a second. That's an important point. When Democrats say, well, the Durham probe didn't find anything. It's like the Durham probe trial is finding endless information. The Durham probe trial is finding endless information about how the Bureau and operatives set up and framed Trump. The problem is you have to differentiate, or you have to delineate, or you have to John Durham unfortunately can't separate the inept behavior of government officials and intent to utilize any pretext possible to go after Trump. So when you have these government agents on the witness stand and they say, well, we didn't ask to verify, or we didn't really pay. I mean, we couldn't verify the information, but we still investigated Trump regardless. Um, that's either being inept and incompetent, or you are hiding behind your ineptitude. You're hiding behind your incompetence. The freak! The freak! No way in U.S. market. You haven't. Thank you. No way, U.S. market. You haven't been suppressed subs. Thank you so very much. The freak. The freak. Thank you so much. Um, I think that in this month I think this month I'll surpass 200,000 subs. And to freak everybody here, Eric H526, who's been with me since day one. Everybody here, Kristen, who's also been with me since day one. I mean, a lot of people have been here since day one. To freak, you've probably been here many years also, maybe since day one as well. We're gonna have a party. Carrie, everybody here, we're gonna have a party. Sarah, we're gonna have a party. It's gonna be the 200,000 sub party. To freak. Let me ask. So, should I have a 200,000 sub celebration live stream? Here, let's see. Should I have a 200,000 sub celebration live stream? Let's see here. The poll will decide, ladies and gentlemen, whether I have a celebration live stream for 200,000 subs. The freak, thank you again. To my super chat, thank you. I appreciate the sentiment and the so because I will have we're gonna go ahead and I think try to do something special. Battleground, thank you. We're gonna do something special, and you have to ask yourself, in terms of the Durham probe special counsel, he has to, within the next couple of days, I find it very difficult for a man who had an immunity deal, a man who was paid $1 million to verify the information and couldn't. The freak, thank you again to my super chat, thank you. I find it very difficult that all 4 counts he'll get out of. Now, here's the problem that John Durham faces, okay? And I'm going to be honest here. There is a possibility he gets out of all 4 counts, but I don't think that'll happen because I just can't imagine, and, God bless him, I can't imagine John Durham being that, I should say, unlucky or incompetent. He's obviously a legendary prosecutor, or at least he has already convicted a bureau official in Boston. Okay, so in that respect, John Durham is a legendary prosecutor, or has a storied history. Ed from Queens, 200 sub live meetup. Everyone who watched The Epic Economist, love The Epic Economist. Ed, I love The Epic Economist. I'm doing my Epic Economist imitation. Consumers around the world are bracing for a financial meltdown Hit subscribe. It's really he's awesome. Amazing voice. Ed from Queens. Can't do a meetup, but it'll be a virtual on the live stream. Ed from Queens. Thank you. I watch The Epic Economist. I watch Steve Van Meter. I'm going to be doing more on the Stock Market Crash channel um, and also on H.A. Goodwin's other channel. Ed, it's like, and The Freak. This is my fourth live stream, or this is my second live stream today right now. In addition to 2 uploads. Um, and it's tough. It's not tough, but it's like doing one channel is a lot of work. Doing 3, I have to actually pump myself up and do, just get more energy to do that. Judy Wright, thank you for becoming a member, Judy. Thank you so much. So Ed, yeah, I watch Michael Cowan also. I like him a lot. It used to be Michael Invests, and let's see. It used to be Michael Invests and Tries to Make Money, but he changed it to Michael Cowan, his name, I believe his name, and he's fantastic. He's fantastic. Michael Cowan is fantastic. He has 162. He deserves 1 million subs. He's fantastic. Steve Van Meter deserves 1 million subs also. And look, they've been saying a long time it's going to tank. I've been saying it since September of 2021, Ed, as you know, on this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a chance, okay? There's a slight chance that Durham has to. Here's what it comes down to, okay? Creating with Wingless Angel, hello. Thank you. I hope all is well. This is what Durham has to do, okay? And I'm hoping that he does this. So, I mean, if you look at a wonderful profile on Twitter, TechnoFog, you see here, Durham transfer, Mueller's special counsel denied its analyst's request to interview Charles Dolan. And then we get into the Clinton public relations executive, political operative. And then formal testimony, interview Dolan was a formal request to interview Dolan was submitted. The request sat for approximately 3 to 4 weeks. She was told by her supervisor it's not going to be opened. He should have the bureau on trial, okay? But he doesn't. Mueller denied its analyst request. Dolan, by doing so, Team Mueller prevented an inquiry that would have revealed his ties to the FISA court. A source, Dolan, who was a public relations executive, was a source. Okay? And then testimony. We had been instructed at the Mueller special counsel not to take further action on the matter involving Mr. Dolan and Mr. Danchenko's relationship. The whole thing was a setup. But see, the average Democrat doesn't understand or doesn't care about any of this. All they know is that the government's working for their cause, their political cause, and that's it. When you hear, and this is a wonderful profile. Technofog is a lawyer, fantastic. He's awesome. Subscribe to his newsletter, everybody. Ed from Queens, Epic believes retail will soon crash and names the stores. Yeah, I have to watch that one. Ed, everything is going to crash soon. And I would advise Ed not even really touching the market now, because it could go down 1,000, up 1,500, down 2,000. I mean, the volatility, exactly, Miguel, I hope all is well, yes. The volatility is counterintuitive, and there is I can only speculate that there's an incentive. I can only speculate that there's an incentive, Ed, and everybody here creating Wingless Angel. Judy, thank you again for joining. I can only speculate there's an incentive to just buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell before the bottom caves. So if you look at right before 1929, Ed, it was very similar. It was up and down, up and down, up and down, and then everything caved. And actually, there was like a couple good days before the crash in 1929. So, look, Enron had a strong buy right before it tanked. I mean, Wall Street is full of very highly intelligent, extremely intelligent, very driven people who care only about money and oftentimes groupthink. And they're not going to, a lot of these people have never seen a market crash. So you're talking about people working for JP Morgan who were 18 or 19 when the market tanked in 08. Not even. No, they were like 15 maybe or 16. They didn't really care. Okay. We're going on 14 years. So, yeah, they might have been 16 and now 30. Think about that, Ed. Everybody here, think about that. If you were 16 years old in 2008, do you really think, do you really like grasp a Lehman Brothers moment? If you were 14 years old, or if you were 13 years old in 2008, when Lehman Brothers tanked and we almost had a global depression, and there were is a too big to fail moment, and you're working for Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or Deutsche Bank or Credit Suisse, and all you know is a bull market. Do you think that you really grasp what's taking place? Exactly, Sarah, exactly. I remember my grandmother um, telling me about the Great Depression on my father's side. And, it's like, if you are removed from these historical events, I'm old enough to remember 87, but I was a kid. But then I'm old enough to, I was an adult, a young adult, I mean, in my 20s for the 2000 crash. And then in my 30s early 30s for 08. So, you have to watch these. You have to ask yourself, well, who's actually giving you the like, where's the optimism coming from on Wall Street? Well, there's still people trading and the market's still going up, and it's very likely from 28-year-old, 30-year-old traders on Wall Street who haven't really seen a 20% crash, single day crash. And when they do, it's not going to be, it will be 2 years in the making. And it'll be, I would say, virtually 100% the fault of the Democratic Party and Republicans who went along with the Democratic Party. Meaning not Trump Republicans. I am lurking. Hello. But in order to get a conviction, and you don't need to be a legal scholar to understand this. After the first Sussman trial, if you read Andrew McCarthy in the National Review, he explained exactly what's going on. Durham has to he has to separate um, government officials being inept and incompetent with them being duped, and also with them being in on it. So he has to, of the three, he has to say, look, they might be in on it. They might have been duped. You should really tell the jury this. These people wanted to believe that they wanted a pretext. Nonetheless, they were still duped. FBI agents wanted a pretext to investigate Trump. Nonetheless, they were duped. Ed from Queens. Ed from Queens, thank you. Great Depression so bad, grandparent never forgot. Exactly. Because you could never forget those things. You know. I remember Enron, people losing all their life savings in Enron stock. I was a stockbroker, then I was a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley 22 years ago. And I remember purchasing a stock certificate just because I wanted to keep that, because I knew that it was already bankrupt. It was on its way to going bankrupt, and I said this is like a part of history. But um, we're living in very interesting, let's say, interesting times, as the proverb says. Um, all of this carnage is of our own making, and had Republicans stood by Trump, none of this would have happened. But they didn't. They investigated. We spent since 2016 either investigating a president presiding over a great economy and a great foreign policy under just because of lies and false allegations. And then they talk about traditions and norms. They accuse Trump of working with the Kremlin, which he didn't do. And then they shut down and prevented they shut down economic activity. Two self-induced wounds. And now we have an invasion in Europe that's never ending. It's turned into almost a counterinsurgency conflict, although I don't know if the invading country really wants that. It's a very difficult task when they say, oh, well, the invading country is losing. Our military is the greatest on earth. We couldn't do that. There is no military that could subjugate the entire country. It's impossible, or even portions of that country. So Biden keeps mashed potato brains. Joe keeps Char West, hello, keeps sending billions and billions and billions and hundreds of millions, and it's like you're not. How does that correlate to national security? Carol, hello. Thank you for watching in Egypt. Thank you, Carol. You look, ladies and gentlemen, and Durham needs to, like I said, he needs to convince the jury of the obvious. Danchenko, the Steele source, obviously lied. The deception was there, so he had to, because none of it was true. He was Dolan and Danchenko and Glenn Simpson and Christopher Steele, who also should be. He should have not even charged Danchenko. He should have charged Christopher Steele. They should have indicted Simpson and Steele. You can't simply become an operative and plunge the country into this turmoil and chaos, knowing deliberate, knowing 18 U.S. Code 371, knowing that it was completely false. All the allegations were false. This is what media doesn't get. They're like, you found nothing. Well, Mueller found nothing. So if you want to talk about a special counsel that found absolutely nothing, we're finding out that they set up and framed Trump. What Durham is actually prosecuting is like specific individual lies. That because everyone involved is so deceptive, they could try to kind of slither out of because of semantics. So, what he has to do right now is, like I said, separate incompetence, bias, and the actual lie, and the fact that the Bureau was duped, that officials at the Bureau were actually duped. I mean, they paid the man $200,000 for a reason. They gave an immunity deal for a reason. Dolan was there for a reason. And so, the reason should be highlighted. Okay, it's interesting because, like, the Sussman trial ended in acquittal because although the jury understood the Sussman lied, they didn't think that the person he lied to was deceived. That's the issue here. They were all in on it. So you're going to have endless investigations. You're going to have endless investigations. And they're like, well, what are the Republicans going to do? If Republicans can oppose and block and prevent Democrats and Biden from plunging the country further into economic turmoil with their obsession over climate, which is an important issue, but it can't be a truly important issue to Democrats if they are obsessing over it while at the same time releasing close to 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves like the greatest hypocrites ever known to mankind. Okay, you're not going to decarbonize the planet if you're begging OPEC for oil. And OPEC is like, no. And no. I mean, what did mashed potato brains Joe think? He thought OPEC was gonna. What did he think? What did this man? Does he ever think? But what does this man like? Do people do Democrats actually understand the way the world works? That like OPEC has their own interests. Do they understand that like every country has its own interest? Do they understand if God forbid the invading country in Europe has its own interest, which have nothing to do with what they're accused of by the wonderful alliance? Every country has their own interests. Some of them are immoral. Some of them, it is immoral for that country to invade the smaller nation in Europe. It is immoral, but it is also immoral for us to provoke a military conflict through various counterproductive decisions. First, starting with President Obama. We can't talk about that though, so let's just not. See the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Here, Democrats, really quickly. We have 7 minutes left. I want to end this before midnight. I just wanted to do a quick live stream. Ed, thank you to my super chat. Thank you so much. Democrats aren't good at governing. Okay, they're good at seizing and grabbing political control of a media narrative. You know, they got the House, the Senate, and the presidency. The economy is in freefall. Foreign policy is a catastrophe. Crime and homelessness are rampant throughout the country. Yeah, you know, violent criminals are actually being let out, without bail. And so they're not good at governing. They're good at a bucket list, checking off, you know, things that they really care about on a bucket list. Okay, so we're going to decarbonize the planet. Oh, that didn't work, actually. You got sued by oil and gas associations. and then you reversed your initial presidential executive orders, and then oh, by the way, you opened up the strategic petroleum reserves and flooded the country full of 200 million barrels. That didn't work. And then oil prices went up, so you begged OPEC and countries within the Middle East. You begged them for oil. Oh, that didn't work though. Oh, it's okay. We got this country back on track to saving the planet. Really? Because actually we're desperate for fossil fuels now. We weren't desperate for fossil fuels with Trump. We weren't. And want to know how we're desperate? The price goes up. The price goes up. You're like, oh, well, electric vehicles are more popular now. Not really. Because people don't have the money to spend 30, 40, well, 50, 60 grand for an EV. Because inflation is at 8 to 9% now. Inflation is at 8 to 9%. And so then, in the most Orwellian manner possible, they always they're so full of themselves in public relations, and they just only care about image. Like, we're going to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. It's like, well, you should have passed the making sure you didn't start inflation like a bunch of imbeciles act, because all the inflation took place in Biden's first year. I mean, why would anyone vote Democrat? I don't get it. Aside from like esoteric and philosophical, pseudo-philosophical nonsense. Trump, democracy should stay. You don't even have a functioning primary. You cheated Bernie Sanders and blamed another country. So, Libra of Eden, hello. So, the interesting thing is that you have a money trail, you have an immunity deal, you have $1 million to verify the dossier, you have a person who was an informant linked to a dossier that was completely fabricated. So the jury has to see a lie someplace. They can't not see a lie. I mean, they have to see a lie someplace. But that's the thing. That's up. I mean, Durham did not. He didn't go after government officials, and he actually should have done that, because he already got a conviction. He already got a plea deal with one government. I mean, he started off. What he should have done, he should have taken that to trial. But he offered a plea deal. So there's got to be something more than just, a plea deal for a deliberately falsifying information to a FISA judge. But, Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, to my super chat, thank you, Ed from Queens. Thank you so much, everybody here. Cashflow, everybody here. The Freak, Eric, everyone here. Thank you so very, very much. I'll be back tomorrow. Check out the upload. I should have an upload tomorrow. It might be about Acosta at CNN in the morning, but I'll have a live stream earlier. So I'll have a live stream by around 4 p.m. tomorrow Pacific. So I will have a live stream at about 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. So anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.